Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Erin Longnecker, and I am with the Nutrition and Aging Resource Center. We're going to give it another minute or so. It looks like I still have participants kind of logging on as we get started. So hold on and sit tight, and we will get going here shortly. All right, welcome. Today's webinar is Better Together, How Your Title III program can collaborate with Title VI. My name is Erin Longnecker, for those of you who had not quite logged on yet, with the Nutrition and Aging Resource Center, and I am co-hosting today with Heidi Robertson. I'll allow Heidi to introduce herself here momentarily, and we are joined by several panelists from across the nation who are here to share their stories of how their programs have collaborated and coordinated between Title III and Title VI. We'll let them give them a chance to introduce themselves as well. Today's webinar is being recorded, so I want to make everyone aware of that, and we will be able to share this recording out later. If you're not already a follower of the Nutrition and Aging Resource Center and don't subscribe to our newsletter, please do so. That way you can make sure that you catch this recording and all the other fun and exciting resources that we have coming. Again, I'm Erin Longnecker. I am a registered dietitian, and I am the Nutrition Aging Content Director for the Nutrition Aging Resource Center. I have been in the field of aging nutrition officially for 2 years now. No, I'm sorry, 3 years now. I just hit my 3-year mark with the Nutrition Aging Resource Center. And I know that for me, 3 years feels like I should know far more than I do. But I recognize that this field is so complex and so multifaceted that really I'm constantly learning new information that I probably should have known a long time ago. But I try to give myself grace. And I think that that's one thing that I've really learned about this network is that all of us are really kind of in the same boat. We recognize that although we have a lot of wisdom in what we do, we also have a lot to learn. So we hope today you will learn something new. I'm now going to turn it over to Heidi. And Heidi is going to get us kicked off today and talk a little bit about Title VI.
Thank you, Erin. I'm Heidi Robertson. I'm also a registered dietitian and the founder and consultant of Heritage Health. I do nutrition public health consulting. Um, in this role, I'm also the nutrition consultant for Title VI programs. So I'm um, available to all Title VI programs across the nation to provide any kind of technical assistance, training, help with resources, and generally answer questions that they might need. So I wanted to help to frame this conversation by giving a little bit of an overview about Title VI eligibility, because it's similar to Title III, but there are some distinct differences. So first of all, Title VI grants are open to all federally recognized tribes with at least 50 elders age 60 and over. Those tribes that do not have 50 elders can form a consortium and apply together to meet that requirement. In order to receive funding, applicants must submit an application, complete a comprehensive needs assessment, and submit tribal resolutions showing the tribe's commitment to the funding opportunity. Funding is based on a 3-year cycle, and applicants begin this process early because completing all necessary components of funding does take a long time. Tribal resolutions are signed by the tribal leader and must be approved by the tribal council, which also can take a long time in and of itself. For Title VI participant eligibility, Title VI program does have two parts. Part A is for American Indians, Alaska Natives. Now, one of the biggest distinctions between Title VI Part A and Title III is that the tribe can determine the age of eligibility. Usually this is set at 55 years and older, though it can vary between tribes. It's important to note, though, that funding is based off of those elders age 60 and over. This flexibility honors tribal sovereignty and also recognizes the lower life expectancy of many American Indian Alaska Native elders. Part B, grants are for Native Hawaiians, and that eligibility is set at 60 years and older, in line with Title III. The Title VI participants also need to reside in the tribe's designated service area. So as part of the Title VI application, tribes submit a map that designates their service area, which is usually their reservation. And anyone, in that service area, they're eligible to serve, or if visitors from outside of the service area come to the Title VI mill site, they would be able to serve those individuals as long as they meet the other program criteria. And then additional criteria is really similar to Title III and includes spouses, caregivers, volunteers, adults with disabilities who reside with or accompany an elder to the meal site. Title VI does also have a Part C program to support American Indian, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiian caregivers. So now that we've learned a little bit about Title VI and Title VI grant and participant eligibility, I'd love to bring it up and learn a little bit more about our participants. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Erin, yeah, thank you. Let's get started. So I want to thank all of our participants for being here today, as well as our audience. Will you please give me a brief description of your organization, location, and who you serve? So maybe about 2 to 3 minutes each participant. Connie, let's start with you.
Thank you, Heidi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Connie Alvarado. I am happy to be part of this event today, and thank you so much for the invitation, Erin. I work for the state of Arizona's Department of Economic Security in the Division of Aging and Adult Services. We are the state unit on aging for Title III funding from ACL for Older Americans Act funding. I am the program coordinator for OAA-funded nutrition and health promotion programs. Arizona is fortunate to have 8 AAAs to assist with this work, and I work closely with all of our 8 AAAs here in Arizona. I provide technical assistance, training, and monitoring, as well as anything that they need program support for. 2 of our AAAs work directly with the tribes here in Arizona. The Intertribal Agency, or the Intertribal Council of Arizona, or ITCA, is the AAA that works with 21 of our 22 tribes here in Arizona. The Division of Aging and Long-Term Care Support, or DALTEX, is the AAA that works with the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation spans 3 states. A larger portion of it is here in Arizona, and then it goes to the east into New Mexico and then to the north of Arizona into Utah. And as I mentioned earlier, I work closely with all of our 8 AAAs, including the 2 that work directly with our tribes here in Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. And let's see, Lorraine, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Lorraine Atsity. I work with the Intertribal Council of Arizona, which is an organization that was established in 1952. We're based in Phoenix, Arizona, and we support 21 of the 22 tribes in Arizona. So our efforts span statewide. Our tribes are in 12 of the 15 counties that we provide technical assistance to. And I am the AAA Area Agency on Aging Director, as well as a Title VI Director. And just to give you some history, we've had Title III since 1979 and Title VI since 1988. Thank you.
Thank you. And also in Arizona, I know Pat is here with Connie from DES DOS. And let's see, Sarah, will you Or Pat, if you want to say a few words about yourself.
Good afternoon. I am Patricia Sutton. I am the tribal liaison with DOS. I work closely with Connie and Lorraine and and the other tribes, and also with Deltex. So glad to be here.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here today. All right, and Sarah.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here today. I'm Sarah Koenig. I'm the Elder Nutrition Program Manager for Wisconsin's State Unit on Aging. I work out of the Madison, Wisconsin area. Our State Unit on Aging is within our State Department of Health Services and part of the Bureau of Aging and Disability Resources, which includes the office that I work in, but also other offices that provide support for older adults and individuals with disabilities. Internally within our Bureau, I work most directly with state staff in our Bureau who provide support to our statewide network of aging and disability resource centers and tribal specialists, which are often part of the same organization that operates nutrition services. So it's a really good collaboration. As the Elder Nutrition Program Manager, though, I provide statewide support to Wisconsin's 3 area agencies on aging directly. But also in Wisconsin, our 72 county aging units and 11 federally recognized tribal nations operate Title III nutrition programs. And with the exception of 2 counties, which are AAAs, all county and tribal aging units provide direct services to Wisconsin's older residents. So I help provide nutrition program support, technical assistance and training, similar to Connie in Arizona as well.
Thank you. And Marla, will you tell us about yourself and your organization?
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for having me in today. My name is Marla Price. I am a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes and education care specialist. I serve the role of nutrition specialist in the state of Michigan at the State Unit on Aging, otherwise known as the Bureau of Aging, Community Living, and Supports. And within this bureau, I do manage all of the Older American Act Title IIIC nutrition programs, as well as food insecurity initiatives. And I also lend support to our Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. Michigan is an 83 county state that is divided into 16 AAA regions that include both rural and urban communities. Our state is culturally diverse. In the more urban communities of Ingham County, which is Lansing, right around where our state capital is, and then some of our counties, Wayne, Washtenaw, Oakland County, around the Detroit region, as well as on the western side of the state, Kent County, we tend to see some diversity there. Our northern Michigan region, both the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula, is occupied by 12 federally recognized tribes and urban tribal groups. And we also have populations of tribal communities within our east, central, and our southwest regions of Michigan. All but one of our 16 AAAs do contract out nutrition services, and statewide we do have about 80 nutrition providers, and we have about 450 Older American Act funded meal sites. So it's great to be here today, and I look forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you here today as well. Now, my next question, let's get into the Title III and VI coordination a little bit more. Can you all briefly tell me about the Title III, Title VI coordination that's happening in your organization? Sarah, if you would like to start with this question.
Sure. So as I mentioned, the 11 federally recognized tribal communities in Wisconsin receive Title III funding for nutrition services, but they also operate Title VI nutrition programs for elders. And most of them, the eligibility is for 55 and older for their Title VI programs. I'd say the fact that we allocate Title III funds to tribal nations has been really critical as a starting point in coordination efforts for a variety of reasons. For us, it has really helped us communicate with and build relationships with Title VI nutrition program directors, who are the same directors that are operating our Title III programs. It has also helped welcome tribal nations into our statewide aging and disability network, which, is really important. Wisconsin's largest AAA, the Greater Wisconsin Agency on Aging Resources, or GWAR, provides support for 70 county and 11 tribal aging units. So all 11 of the tribal lands fall within GWAR's planning and service area as a AAA. And what's really unique is that Great Lakes Intertribal Council is a critical partner of ours and of GWAR's as well, and operates a Tribal Technical Assistance Center, which I'll call a TTAC just to be concise. The TTAC provides culturally appropriate and tribal specific technical assistance to tribal aging units funded through both Title III and Title VI of the Older Americans Act. So that really significantly helps with coordination. Also, just internally within our office, my supervisor in particular has really been a role model for staff in our office to engage with tribal nations in Wisconsin as much as possible by convening Bureau-wide tribal support meetings with our department's Tribal Affairs Office. That's one of the benefits of being in the Department of Health Services. We have a Tribal Affairs Office that works across programs, not just for aging. So that's really helpful as well. Meetings with Great Lakes Intertribal Council and encouraging us as SUA staff to attend ACL's Title VI conference and the tribal aging unit directors that Great Lakes Intertribal Council hosts. Our State Aging Advisory Council also encourages and includes tribal elder membership. And another thing that I think is really helpful is that we really try to hire individuals with lived experience in Native communities whenever possible. The other thing that I think is really contributes to Title III and Title VI coordination in our organization is that Title III's programmatic and reporting requirements have created some opportunities for us to also support tribal nations' efforts to fulfill their Title VI obligations. As Heidi mentioned, there are some similarities. There's a good number of similarities between Title III and Title VI. Another example is we have a statewide reporting system for our Title III programs that we need. We have to have that for Title III. And just by simply, allowing the ability for our programs to also use that same space for their Title VI recording and tracking, I think is really helpful and kind of goes a long way in streamlining their processes. So that's really important as well because they're claiming NSIP meals just like we are in Title III. And so it's a helpful sort of way to streamline processes for them. We also provide opportunities for all of our Title III providers, so including our tribal aging units, to comment on state policies and procedures as they're updated. And tribal nations have really offered a lot of valuable feedback on those policies and procedures over the years, and I'll talk a little bit about that later in things that are sort of working well. But that's been so beneficial to us, and of course, there's always room for improvement in how we engage and get additional feedback, but that has been really helpful as well.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear about all the exciting, positive things going on in Wisconsin. Marla, would you mind telling us a little bit about your Title III, Title VI coordination?
Sure. So in Michigan, over the past several years, our Bureau has been taking steps to make our State Unit on Aging and Title VI coordination a priority. And I think that, this really became a focus area a couple of years ago when we saw that there was really a Department of Health and Human Service approach to the social determinants of health 3-year strategy plan. And we really began to kind of look at those strategies, and they have slowly become part of our state plan on aging work. Bureau-wide, very similar to what Sarah just mentioned, we have been inviting tribes to review and provide input to the AAA multi-year plans, as well as their annual implementation plans, and have encouraged diverse representation to the local advisory boards. We are looking at these partnerships holistically across programs, not really specific just to nutrition. And we are having our MDHHS's Tribal Government Service and Policy Office really look at those policies and procedures and formally review those. There's also been some recent involvement with that Tribal Government Service Policy Office here in Michigan to look at possible opportunities and intersections with the Disability Network Learning Collaborative. So that is happening as well. And in terms specifically of nutrition, which is my role, the initiative that I have personally been involved with relating to the coordination of Title III and Title VI is the inclusion of tribal groups into our annual Nutrition and Wellness Summit. And I'm not going to get into that too much on this question because I have a lot more to say about this in subsequent questions, but that really has been an avenue for opening the door to just communication, networking, and uncovering potential collaboration ideas.
Excellent, thank you. Larry, will you tell us a little bit about your Title III and VI coordination?
Sure. I think that very similar to what Sarah mentioned in regards to the seeing similarities within 3 and 6. There's definitely there's some differences, but I think just figuring out how to coordinate those efforts within the 44 senior centers that we support. We provide technical assistance to the 21 tribes regarding their Title III. And then I have a consortium, like Heidi mentioned earlier, of 4 tribes that I support as their Title VI director. But if we are able to help the other tribes with some of their Title VI questions, or maybe even refer them to the ACL regional administrator or ACL in particular for technical assistance, we're always there to look at alternate resources. I think the other thing I have to do a little shout out to the Department of Economic Security, Division of Aging and Adult Services, which Connie and Patricia work with, because I think that that's also extremely helpful, is the supportiveness of that office, and the fact that they have tribal liaisons in various departments within the state. So it really helps to strengthen that coordination within 3 and 6 efforts. Just to give you some examples of how we do that, I would say that we utilize the states of Arizona's intake document, and we have been able to use an intake document for Title III and VI. So it's very seamless in the transition when they grow into that Title III program. We also do training. So we see some cost sharing opportunities between the 3 and 6 for training. We handle public hearings for Title III. You know, it is a requirement, but it also gives us the opportunity to hear from Title VI participants, which we can then put into our area plan as an area agency and then roll into a state plan. So I think that shows definite areas where there can be involvement in the Title VI, with the Title VI program. Our monitoring toolkit is also flexible. We can do one visit and monitor Title III and VI at the same time. Our needs assessments, that is a requirement for Title VI. We've been given permission by the state to use the same information for our application for our Title III program. So that has also been very helpful. We made sure that our grants, our contracts, or notification of grant awards that we subcontract with the tribes are all similar to what the state issues to us. So everything looks the same. There's no, it's very recognizable when you're filling out the NOGA for a Title III service and you're doing something similar to a Title VI, very similar process. And then I think the other thing that is very effective is the advocacy efforts, the combined advocacy efforts that we can have with 3 and 6, and the contractual pieces, our agreements with the tribes, as well as the agreements that we have with the state and the agreement that we have with Title VI. Everything is very much the same clauses within the contracts, protecting tribal sovereignty, making sure that, everything is, we're all in agreement with the process. Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. All right, Connie and Pat, if you all want to talk about the Title III and VI coordination happening at DES DOS.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. I appreciate that. So as I mentioned earlier, Arizona does have 8 AAAs, and 2 of our AAAs do work directly with our tribes, which is already a plus. And as you've heard from Lorraine, one of our AAAs that works with both Title III and Title VI, there is already some coordination there. I'm glad to hear that some of the processes in place are helping her, like the familiarity between the forms that can be used with one program and the other. Right now, DOS is currently in the process of beginning to formalize the collaboration between its Title III and Title VI with the tribes and all of its other 8 AAAs. So once we get this off the ground, I'm sure we're going to have really great processes in place that we'll be able to use and apply that will be beneficial to both Title III and Title VI with our tribes. And hearing what Michigan and Wisconsin is doing is giving us, to me, it's giving me lots of great ideas of some directions we can take. We're probably going to borrow some of your ideas. They sound great. And I'm excited to be here and learn more because, as I said, we're just beginning to formalize our process or our collaboration for Title III and Title VI. Pat? Is there anything you want to add?
That darn button. I concur with Connie, and I'm looking forward to building this collaboration with our tribes. I mean, we have a very unique setup here in the state where our tribes more or less have their own AAAs. And now we just need to work with the remaining 6 and see if we can further that collaboration with them, because they do have neighboring tribes or tribes that are within their geographical areas. So, and a lot of our tribes have to go off tribal lands to shop, to go to their major doctor's appointments into areas, the metropolitan areas. So I'm looking forward to that collaboration there.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you, Connie. I agree with what you were saying about, all of the great ideas that were, have already been shared during this webinar. So I thank you all for that. I want to know a little bit more about how you got started in your Title III and VI collaboration, especially thinking about maybe some of these the states or Title III programs, Title VI programs that are interested in creating that coordination or enhancing that collaboration, but don't quite know how to get started. So, Lori, if we can start with you on this question.
Sure. I started at ITCA in 2006, and I started as a program specialist. So I had to learn all of the services, the congregate, the home delivered, ombudsman, health promotions. And then I became the AAA director in 2014. So I think that I feel like it was beneficial to learn the individual services to finally work to becoming that director. I think with the Title III and VI, again, I mentioned you recognize the similarities, but there definitely are some differences between the two grants. So how I feel like what was most helpful in getting started was really going back and doing some homework and reading the manuals for the state Title III program, reading the Older Americans Act, and now the changes with the final rules, looking at, you can definitely get quickly reference, changes for Title III and VI coordination, looking at how we extend and grow out our partnerships, with food banks, state coalitions, other tribal organizations, urban Indian organizations. And then, of course, you have to understand the tribe's process. All different tribes, all different languages, all different cultural beliefs, understanding the relationship between the government to government relationship, and how that is based on the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, and treaties, and other documents, and the uniqueness and of this relationship. I think it was just having to go back and learn. I feel like somewhere in between, I should have received some kind of legal law degree because it is a lot of technical pieces to this. It's not as easy sometimes as we think it is. And I think one more thing that helped is to have the education in place. We actually had our ITC attorney go back and do training with us and the state about tribal sovereignty, about government to government relationships, a lot of these things that we might not have learned when we initially entered into the aging field. Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent point about all of the legal, legal training and learning about the history of the tribes. And yeah, that's a great idea. Marla, if you want to talk a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, sure. Even before some of the ACL final rule regulations that have come down, we really have been very focused on engagement with that Tribal Government Services Policy Office that I was talking about. And I know this was mentioned in the earlier question for other states as well, but we work very closely with that tribal liaison, and that office, and specifically recently, we have been assigned a dedicated subject matter expert from that division that is focused on Native elders, and has just been really helpful in navigating meeting coordination, document dissemination, warm handoffs when we're trying to coordinate project work. But that, that support from that office has just really, really helped to grow and expand our initiative. Additionally, from our MDHHS office, there has been a wide range of opportunities to really become more culturally competent and to bring awareness, educate staff to the cultural norms and, how we can work to develop trust and really cultivate those effective partnerships. So I think that has really been something that has helped move us forward as a department and a state. I know that the Title VI Regional Administrator has been mentioned a couple of times. She has also been very, very helpful in helping us to engage and stay updated on new contacts. I think that is something that we see a lot, is sometimes those contacts are changing. So that has been very, very helpful. And also she has been very willing to be a speaker at some of our events. So that has helped to inform and engage partners across our state. And, I think too that I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we also are trying to cultivate connections with our Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and there are opportunities for intersections there. A lot of our Native groups are very focused on community gardens, on ways to really grow those native foods, and then in turn begin to feed their programs with that homegrown food. So lots of potential there for collaboration. But those are really some of the initial steps that got us moving in this direction and really looking for opportunities to partner and coordinate with these two programs.
Excellent. Thank you, Marla. There were a lot of really good ideas there. I love that you mentioned, the opportunities to become more culturally competent and learn more about the tribes and Title VI programs in your state. So Connie and Pat, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got started?
So we are at the very beginning of this process. We're just beginning to develop our procedure to initiate this collaboration effort. I am seeing, as I mentioned earlier, there's lots of great ideas and things that we will be borrowing and considering. I think that are important, because if you don't lay that foundation, that strong foundation at the very beginning, it's not going to be very, how can I say it? It's not going to get us very far. So I'm hearing lots of great ideas, and I'm looking forward to working on this and developing that procedure. Pat?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just starting my 3rd year as a tribal liaison and new to DOS, so I'm learning. And I'm fortunate right now that I am now exclusive DOS. I was also with DOS, I was with another division. So I wasn't able to learn a lot, but now I'm going headfirst into this. I've got my final rules and everything marked. I've got my policy marked, everything marked. So just in case I need to go back, I have those documents up and ready to go. And I've reached out to our program specialists here, our program managers, and invited them to the cluster training here in Phoenix so they can see how Title VI works and everything. So they were able to go to that, and and they wish, the remainder of our other managers were able to attend. So we're, like I said, the sky's open. we're ready to go and we're getting ideas and whatnot. And according to our deputy assistant director, we're going to be starting that pretty soon.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you, Connie. All right, I'll turn it over to Erin to ask the next question.
Thank you so much, Heidi. All right. Well, thank you all for your answers. Now, I know I knew this would happen. We have such a wealth of knowledge and wisdom on this webinar that we're quickly running out of time. So I was actually just typing a little chat to all of our panelists, but I'll just tell you live. The last two questions, we're going to kind of combine those to really kind of give some good advice to the participants today, and perhaps all of you can kind of include what's worked well for you in that as you're offering that final advice. So just giving you all the heads up, giving you some time to think about that. But you know, we really, this webinar came about because Heidi and I were discussing how we know that there are many programs across the country who are interested in beginning this work or furthering this work, but don't really know where to start. And so I really want to thank Connie and Patricia for joining us, because we have to start somewhere. And, you know, being vulnerable is so important in admitting that, you know, when we do start somewhere, typically we don't have it all figured out, and we're figuring it as we go. So learning from opportunities, whether it is making connections and networking with peers that have been through this before, or joining in on a webinar such as today. So thank you so much for that. Speaking of vulnerability, when we do get started in a process, or even when we're well into a process, oftentimes we inadvertently make mistakes. And so, Sarah, would you be willing to share with us today what mistakes have been made during this collaboration in the state of Wisconsin so that our participants can learn?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Erin. I would say that one of the biggest mistakes we've made over the years, and I've been in this role for a while now, and seeing this happen, is not thinking about or considering the needs of Native populations when we implement new programs and services. So there's been examples of times when we've gone to the governor, for example, with a budget request, and we're asking for funding for services and not thinking about the needs of our tribal communities when we're making that ask, and then realizing later that what we asked for isn't going to meet their needs, or that we're not including them in the funding structure of, you know, the services that we want to implement. And so that's something that I think is really important to do. Another mistake that I think we make periodically, although we're getting better, is assuming that the needs and preferences of Native elders are the same across the 11 Native nations that are in our state. And so to address that, you just really have to take some time to listen and to learn, and that can be really hard to do because I know we're really busy. But there's differing, you know, levels of intergenerational trauma from community to community, and different disparities. You know, one community in Wisconsin has a markedly lower life expectancy than some of the other Native nations, which are also lower than the general population. And it's just important to keep in mind, you know, some of the challenges that they might be facing, and then it's not the same across communities. One thing, I don't know that it's necessarily a mistake, but something we have to do a better job of is considering the needs of Native elders who do not reside within tribal lands. I think we've gotten to a good place, you know, in recognizing the needs of individuals who are residing on tribal lands because they're, you know, eligible for Title VI programming. But there are many Native elders who are living all across our state, many in some of our urban areas where there isn't a Title VI program. And so, you know, that's an area too that I think is really important to take a look at, is making sure that we can meet the needs of folks who are not living on tribal lands. And then just finally, I was just going to say, when we make mistakes, it's really just important to acknowledge them. I found that over the years as well, and not take it personally if there's frustration. because, you know, we can just find a path forward, and mistakes happen. So it's important to just find a solution and work together.
Sarah, thank you so much. You know, the wonderful Jean Lloyd had reached out, and Heidi and I have had conversations with her just today. And something that Jean had brought kind of to the top was that, yes, that oftentimes, the Native elders that are being served are not a part of a formal tribe or formal recognized native land. And so really being able to be aware of that, because I don't know this for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet that all of our states have Native elders that they could be serving and should be serving, even if they aren't formally with a Title VI program. So that's a great call out. Thank you so much. And I love also the call out about mistakes are bound to happen and acknowledging that and really learning from that and moving forward. Lorraine, would you share a little with us about some of the mistakes that have been made during your experience with this collaboration?
I think for me, it was really understanding the resources available to use what we have and use what we're gathering. Like, for instance, the Title VI assessment. It's a perfect way to assess the need within the tribal community because that's information that the tribal member provided in regards to their needs. So it's utilizing that on a 6 side as well as a 3 side. I think that was something I learned later on is I could make it work on both ends. I think the other thing is looking at understanding the average cost of a single unit of service on a 3 side versus a 6 side. Ideally, it should be an equal cost because it's being provided to the same elder in the same community. But finding that sometimes that's not it's not very fair and reasonable sometimes. I think the other piece is learning from mistakes about what I can gather from my reports, really looking at analyzing the data and being able to interpret the data and to be able to advocate based on the data. That was something that I had really had to do baby steps to understand and get better at. I think the other piece that I feel like would be mistakes is not really paying attention to the policies as much and really kind of honing in on those, understanding and honoring tribal sovereignty and respecting the wishes, but still respecting the wishes of the tribal community. Or understanding that Title VI is a grant specific to tribal members in tribal communities. But I agree with Sarah. There's definitely more work that we could do to support tribal members that are living off their federal lands, off the reservations. So those would probably be my main ones.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much both for being vulnerable and sharing that. It can be really hard to admit our mistakes. My mistake today was that I didn't realize that our PowerPoint slides were on a timer. And so in the middle of the webinar, there I was messing with that. That's very minor, very, very minor compared to, what you all have shared. But really, it's an opportunity to learn and to grow from that. All right, so with 9 minutes left, this is like the speed round. If you've ever been to a conference where we've presented, sometimes we do network speed dating or speed networking, it's going to be similar, but this is for our panelists. So all 4 of you, I'm going to ask you all to share what you want other Title III programs to know about coordinating with Title VI programs. If they are looking to expand that coordination, or if they're looking just to dip their toes in and start to really look into this and to get this process started, what would be a piece of advice, a very brief piece of advice, perhaps something that's worked really well for you that you would give to them? Connie or Pat, if we could start with you, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, Erin. So I've learned a lot since I started here, and working with Pat has helped, and working with our two AAAs that work directly with our tribes has been very helpful to me. So I've learned to realize that we need to respect the tribes for who they are. It is important to understand their history, both with the US and our state governments. And then, of course, we need to make sure we respect their tribal governments in its operations. By taking the time to build that positive rapport, as you would do with any partner, you can demonstrate your true commitment and build strong, lasting relationships. And I think that's going to be extremely, extremely helpful and important in building this collaboration for our Title III and Title VI programs. Thank you. Pat?
Yeah, I would concur with Connie, and the most important is to understand that government relationship that has happened in the past. Everything has been paternalistic. The tribes were always told, given, you're doing this wrong, you're not doing this right, you need more of this. But instead of really listening to what the tribe's needs and wants are. So you have to let the tribes lead the discussion and do the asking. So, that's what I could suggest. Just let the tribes tell you what their needs are.
I love that advice. Thank you so much. Building those lasting relationships and making sure that the tribes are leading that relationship. Those are huge pieces of advice. Lorraine, what can you add to this?
I think that I'm hoping that when we look at Title III and VI coordination, and we've talked about so many different ideas, that we're kind of stepping away from that kind of mindset of, oh, we just need to do outreach. That although outreach is important, it's not just outreach to say that you're coordinating Title III and VI efforts. Not all tribes are the same, varying beliefs, varying languages, so much to understand and take in when recognizing what's important to that tribal community. And I think once that you've all reached out and connected with these tribes, maintain that relationship, be present. I mean, it always helps even to go out and visit those communities in person. I think a lot of face-to-face contact is very important for the tribes. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Marla.
Yeah, I would echo so much of what has already been said here. I think, patience, persistence, I think, really honoring the cultural norms and becoming familiar with those is so important. As I think back on our experience here with the Nutrition and Wellness Summit, we started out begging and pleading for one of our tribes to come and present and even really be in attendance at our event. And 3 years later, we have speakers lined up for next year. So that, as well as, this year we had seven of the 12 federally recognized tribes in attendance at our event. So it takes time to build relationships. And I think once those relationships are established, I just really think it's important to maintain those. So staying in contact, maintaining, and really, as I said, honoring what is important to their cultural norms. So that is what I've got today. And Erin, we're on a tight schedule, so I'm going to kick it back to you.
Thank you so much, Marla. And thank you for all of our panelists because I'm kind of like asking you to pivot here last minute. Last but definitely not least, Sarah, what pieces of advice do you have?
Well, everyone has set the stage for me really well. A lot of what has been said already is how I feel as well. I just wanted to highlight what has been said about building relationships and connections and about how that takes time And I echo what Lorraine has said about the value of in-person building of relationships. That's probably the biggest advice I have to others, is I've found so much benefit from getting in the car and driving to a tribal community and sitting down with the director, having a meal, going to the community center for an event. It's so valuable and it means so much on both sides. And so I can't emphasize that enough. I also, think that it's really important to to look at the Title III and the Title VI regulations and find those ways that you can better coordinate and offer flexibility, and seek that input from the tribal communities that you're working with as to how, you can better provide that coordination or work together to do that. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that ACL does a really amazing amount of support for Title VI programs. There are so many resources out there. So if you want to learn more about the Title VI program, there's a lot of information out there, and they do some really cool educational sessions and chats. And so just a plug for the Title VI program and Heidi and Cynthia and everyone's work at ACL.
Wow, thank you, Sarah. Sarah, I feel like you're reading my mind today because you are just like on fire with queuing me up for the next points. So we're finishing up here with 2 minutes left. The Nutrition Aging Resource Center, we also have many resources available when it comes to building cultural competency, whether that is learning to reach out to your Title VI tribes within your state, or whether it's just learning more about those communities of Native elders that may be present, but may not be part of a type program. We do have some resources to help you build that cultural competency. We also have some resources that kind of help kickstart you and give you some ideas if you're getting started in this coordination and collaboration. And then as you dive into this and really start to dig in a little bit deeper, we have some further resources that can help you and benefit you in that. So I know I was asked earlier if slides would be provided because the majority of the slides are really just those questions. I didn't plan on providing the slides, but what I can do is combine those handouts in a document and send that out to all registrants. So I just want to thank again all of our panelists for joining today. It's so hard sometimes to be vulnerable. I know that's like the word of the day for me, but I really appreciate that because that's really where the deep learning comes in. This webinar was recorded today and we will provide the recording of the webinar. So look out for that. And with that, we are finished. It is 3 o'clock Central Time. So thank you all for joining, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of the week. Bye.